You've had the conversation or you've had the thought process one day, I wish there was an app for that. Today on Coach Grid, we're going to be talking about the step-by-step process to get ready to actually build and develop an app. That being the first idea that you need an idea. So, Kirsten Davis, welcome. Excited to be talking with you today about this process. It's a process that we have experienced a lot of times, both for ourselves and with, so many of the clients that we've worked with. Yeah. And oftentimes that's where it starts. Somebody comes to us and says, I've got this idea. I think this would be really cool. What do I do next? Mm-hmm. And then they kind of, give that to us. So somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got this idea for an app and I think that would be really cool. Where do I go? Where do you start with them?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you really want to figure out, if you have an app idea, usually it's coming from a desire or you have a business. And I think the first thing that's really important is to get really clear on what the idea actually is for. What is it solving? And also keeping in mind, who is it for? Like if you have a business, which a lot of our clients do have businesses, they come to us with this idea and they're like, well, it's going to solve all of these things. And a lot of their ideas are about how it's going to make their lives better or easier. And they haven't even thought about how that's going to happen for their clients or vice versa. So being clear on, is this just a client-facing app? Is it something that has two sides?
Right. The funny thing is oftentimes when someone comes in, they have a problem that they're wanting to solve, as you were saying, and we'll start talking with them. And most people that we work with, their experience is the apps that they've used. Mm-hmm. So the apps that they've used, they've been the end user. They've been on that side. And so that's usually the problem I think that they're trying to solve, is something for an end user. Yeah. Then as they start to get the vision, it would be really cool if it did this for me too. And it'd be really cool if it did this for me too. Yeah. And actually my clients have clients that they have problems. We do stuff for them. Mm-hmm. And the scope can grow very quickly, because this has been a pain point for some people at times. Apps can kind of just grow infinitely. How do we address that, I guess? Scope
creep. Like it has its own little name, because it's so easy once you're in creation and you have basically just unlimited intelligent, like you're not in a creator dragging and dropping. You're like, anything you can think you can build with code. So I think it's really important up front. That's why that's the very first step, is to get clear on what is this solving? Who is it for? And thinking through, like, if you have a business, don't think about like, what kind of an app do I want? Like sit down with a paper or a notes app on your phone through the day and write down what you actually do. Pay attention to, man, what's taking me 30 minutes or more, or even 10 minutes or more, I would say, because if you have 10 minutes and then all of a sudden you have 100 people you're doing that for, that's a lot of minutes. So just writing what you actually do, what your clients actually do, the questions they're asking you. Like every time you get a question, be like, do I need to answer this question? And sometimes you do. And that's where your time is best spent, because that's where you have lived experience and personal value to add. But if you're like, I could actually give this to a VA, or I could, bring somebody onto my team that's the support person. Those are the things that it's like green lights flashing. Hey, this is a really good place to think about that. I probably want to bring this into scope.
Right. In that process, this is where there's a point in time in this conversation with the client where I just kind of lose most of my utility. The first part, I feel like I have some, because we're talking about human nature and we're understanding people and what people desire and where people really have problems. Like there's the thing maybe you come wanting to solve, but then discovering the deeper thing and then addressing that in the creation. And getting all of this clarity is a really important process before we start the design. Yeah. And that really brings us into the next part, where you do this so brilliantly. And sometimes it's hard because it feels like it's almost another language, but you move into the structural design. Mm-hmm. And the ideas of, I need an app that does this. And that can be accomplished a lot of ways. Yeah. And maybe this is hard to describe. I don't know, because for me, it's hard to understand. What is the design process of a structure for an app? Like, what leads you down that path and knowing how to structurally design something?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The best apps that I've ever designed are really because the client comes to me with really the clear things they want to solve, but they don't say, and I need a button here. And they don't say, because the second that you're saying, I need a button here, or I need a tab here, in that first step of the process where you're figuring out what are we building, if you have any kind of preconceived idea of what that needs to be in step one, you're shifting your thinking from what's the problem I'm solving to how am I solving it? And it's funny, I love software because it has a lot of overlap into life principles that I really like to live by. And one of them in manifestation, you can hear, they'll tell you like, if you want something, get really clear on what you want and then let go of the how. And it's very much the same in software. So that first step, you're getting really clear on what you want, and then you're letting go of the how. And then in step two, you're staying letting go of the how. You don't go, now we're going into the how. You just start to look around. You look at what you've written out, what you want to accomplish, and you say, what things fit together? And you start to organize things into, oh, these feel the same. Sometimes it's really just a feeling, because when somebody's using an app, they're not thinking, does this app logically make sense? And does this flow logically make sense? Because we're not logical beings on our most instinctual level. And so the things that make us feel the safest and where we make decisions from, where we make purchases from, it's very instinctual a lot of the time, unless we're going into that logic fear state. So you're wanting to like get all the data that you've gathered and look at where's the commonality in feeling, in utility, from the logical side as well. And then once you have all those groups, only then are you starting to say, okay, what is the flow that has emerged? And that's more of the structural design. And you don't do any visual design, no buttons, no tabs until you've done that step. Does that
that's great.
Answer a little bit?
It really does. And it helps because it does feel a little less mathematical and a little more ethereal.
Yeah.
But because it's structural, and because there are sections and buttons and spaces and rules, and that there is structure to it, but a structure that's kind of designed from more of a feeling state, which I think for people like myself who operate more in the brain and in that side of things, that's just not the way that I naturally operate.
Yeah.
And so I get to come in, much like our clients at times, and say, can it do this? Or it would be really cool if it could do this. And the thing that I think has been most impressive is that like 9 times out of 10, you're like, well, yeah, that's obviously, but it can also do these 4 things. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Or I'm like, why do you want it to do that? I'm like, you don't. I'm like, yes, it can. And you really don't want it to.
Yeah.
Like but I think we're creatures of habit. And so we see something, we're like, there's this app on my phone. I actually hate it. That's why I'm here. But I want it to do that. Like, I can't tell you how many times people say that. They come in with an app they don't like, and then we start building it, and they're like, it's not like this app. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
Exactly. That's the thing we're solving.
Yeah. But it's weird because, and that you really, it's a practice. It's a skill that you have to learn by living it in life and in design. When you're going into that design stage, you have to let go as much as you can of what you've seen, what you think is right. And it really is like almost a spiritual practice when you're doing it. And the best developers typically have parallel life skills, where in life they're able to really, move with life and not drop into like, I need to control things.
Right. That feels good. And that helps me. So hopefully anybody that's watching this, they can kind of understand some of the value of having someone else helping in that process. Because if that doesn't come naturally for you, I've seen a lot of clients that want to force it and force their structure. And that's just not gone well to this point.
Yeah, it doesn't. If a client comes to me and they're really pushing, I will let them know about 3-4 times. I'm like, just so you know, I don't recommend this. I will, at the end of the day, they're welcome to pay me to do whatever they want. They're going to end up paying me 10 times as much. Because I'm like, you're putting yourself in this corner and you're going to have to pay to get out of it. And a lot of times they just are like, no, I still want to go that route. But
talking about paying and the financial side to it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, unless you're running a nonprofit, even when you're running a nonprofit, there's still viability and sustainability. So we start talking about monetization. And there's some costs and things that are associated with having an app just operate. But then there's also the sustainability of what that app does and how you want that to help you grow in your business.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to a client about monetization, I know they come to you with ideas of like, oh, I want to charge 99 cents for this, or I would love to be able to upsell on this thing. What are some things that maybe people don't think about in the monetization side that you help them understand?
Yeah, I think again, there's a process when somebody's coming in, and I'll speak for business owners because again, that's the majority of people who we're building for. So a business owner comes in, they already have a pricing model. Coaches we work with a lot, and they typically they're like, yeah, I have this mini course or a bundle, of like resources. And those are like on the cheaper side, maybe like $30, $50, $100. And then sometimes they have a subscription. They have like a community space or ongoing access to them. That's a monthly price. And then they'll have their higher ticket stuff. That's a pretty typical coaching setup. You're looking for where are you leaving money on the table? And there's kind of two places that you want to think about that when you're building an app. So one, we had a client recently that wanted to add affirmations to her app, like for people to be able to record affirmations, and then it stores as an affirmation. And then in the morning they can click play and they hear themselves speaking the affirmation. And I was like, that's great, but audio storage, and it's called egress. Like when they're pulling that audio up, every time they pull it up, it's nominal. It's pretty small, but if you have a lot of users and they're logging in a lot and they have a lot of content, it starts to grow, right? Yeah. And so that side of it where you're like, okay, that's a great feature. It's going to eventually cost you money to have. So that's a great place to add a little pricing bump, like a tier that it's like, if you pay 99 cents or $9 or however much you want to do, depending on if you want to profit or just break even, if somebody's accessing that feature, it's just a bump above free. Or you can look at it as marketing cost, and you're building it into your marketing budget where you're saying, this is basically the lead in for a funnel. And so the people that are in my app, if they use this, they're going to be more likely to book my high ticket thing,
right.
And you can build in more like marketing. I mean, people do this all over the place. You download an app and it's free and there's all these ads, right? So like you make money somewhere. And if it's your app, you can put your own little ads in there.
Right. Yeah. You get to decide how that is for your client.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've loved and I've talked with a lot of our clients about is you don't have to go play build collector every time.
Yeah.
The process of purchasing becomes so simple that and that's what everybody wants, right? They want the path of least resistance. It's like, oh, well, I'll send you an invoice and then you pay the invoice. And that's already too many steps. I want this. It's this much. You click the button and it's done.
Yeah.
That's been really great.
So there's the side of pricing that you have features that are eventually going to cost you. So you bundle that into your pricing model. There's also the side of you have your pricing model that already exists. Where could that be more customized? And then so maybe somebody has the feature in your app to track habits or, like workouts, you're like tracking reps or whatever it is. And you have like predefined trackers that they can add. And then maybe the next tier up, like an upsell that extends your lifetime value of that client, is they can add a custom habit or tracker. So they're paying to make it fit them like a glove versus getting the out of the box thing. And so there's a lot of stuff with the pricing model you can play with where you're asking, where can I deepen the experience? Where can I make them feel like it's even more tailored to them, authentic to them? And they're paying for that, but it's not any more cost to you as the coach or the business owner. So your clients feel more supported, but also you actually have your time alleviated because they're not reaching out for you when they're feeling that desire for having higher touch
Absolutely.
interaction.
So all of a sudden you're making money and you don't have to be physically present for the fulfillment of the thing because you built it on the front end. Part of the reason I think we wanted to do this particular video is a lot of times people say, I have this idea for an app, and they assume that the next step is just the app is there. And that there's actually a lot that goes into this, even sometimes before you can look at it, because this is all the back end. This is all the structure. And it kind of reminds me of like building a house. You build the house and it's very, very simple, and there's wires and there's pipes and there's walls, and it's all very sleek and simple.
Yeah.
But then you come into the visual design because you want this to be somewhere where people like being. And you can, I think my experience has been, you can build the most functional, really cool app. But if it doesn't feel good to use, it doesn't matter. And so
100%.
The close to one of the last steps is visualization and the visual state, the design, the interior design, of the app. And again, this is a place where we have clients that have just been like, hey, I trust you, do your thing, make it look good. What oftentimes helps in designing an app, because of course this is theirs. We want it to feel good for them. We want it to feel like them and to reflect their personality. But then it can get maybe too micromanaged. How do we strike the balance? How do you strike the balance when working with a client to get something good?
So if I'm working with a client versus you're just out there, you're wondering how to, like, what are the steps for me to create an app? If you're creating it yourself, there's a lot that goes into psychology around like the amount that your corner is rounded on a button changes psychologically how the person's feeling. Like there's so much, the depth, the shadow, the color of the shadow, your font. And if it's like a little more spikier, if it has serifs or not, like, and the way that they're put together, the spacing between stuff, the spacing between letters, like there's so much that goes into design. So if you're designing your own app, I would recommend starting there rather than just being like, what looks good? Because that's what creates an app that you're like, it looks really good and I'm probably never going to touch it again, versus something that you're like, I just keep opening this app. Like Instagram, like people, they're just habitually opening Instagram because it's designed to pull you in. And there's a lot of psychology behind that than just, it's funny. Instagram actually, if you look at a lot of the things in it, it's not always, especially Facebook's an even better example of this. It actually doesn't look good a lot of the time, but it feels good. And so there's things like they sometimes will even sacrifice something that looks good visually for something that's going to convert to those like hits.
Yeah.
So on that side, I would look a lot more into the psychological side of design. Clients working with us and with me, I think what I found works the best is if they can actually just find some pictures. And they're like, these pictures are how I want the app to feel. And then understanding the psychology behind it, I can bring that in. I can bring the strategic side. I can look at the photos and evoke the emotion. I know why. I'm really good at pattern. So like spotting when people are telling me their story and then they've told me this is why I want to build this app. And then they're showing me photos. I'm like, oh, I see it. It's so obvious. And so I'm able to pull that into the design.
It makes me think of there's memes that'll go around that'll say, number 5 feels like a Wednesday. And I can't tell you why.
Yeah, exactly.
And it also feels like a square.
Yep.
And for some, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I never thought about that. But really, that is true. So much of personality and who you are comes through in ways that operate in the deep subconscious.
Yeah.
And so with that skill set that you have and that we have of being able to let a personality come through in numbers, in fonts, in colors, in a lot of those things, in some of the verbiage that's even used in the app, that quickly becomes one of your best salespeople.
Yeah.
And also can be one of the biggest detriments if you try to force it in a certain path that maybe, like you said, looks good, but doesn't feel good to the end user. And it's like, well, why is nobody using this?
Yeah.
And then you're forced to kind of work on a rebuild. So finishing this up, there's a lot of stuff out there that's like, hey, AI will build you an app, 3 minutes. You type in one sentence and tell you what you want, and then it's done. 3 years ago, you hired a team. You were looking at least 6 figures, high 6 figures probably, an entire development team to be able to develop and build an app for you. And it was going to take like a year. So where do we strike the balance? Because we've talked with a lot of people that are like, yeah, I tried this type of app and I typed in my sentence and I paid them the money and I hate it. And after this conversation, you can start to see why, because there's still a lot that goes into it that AI isn't doing, and in some cases can't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my phase 1 of this process takes about 14 hours, like just to like after they've already told me everything, they're clear on phase one. And then I go and I translate that based on my experience, and it's a process. So yeah,
certainly
your no code platforms are probably not doing that, but they're not doing that behind the scenes.
right. And this is where the final step is hire a developer.
Yeah.
Hire somebody that can deliver to this level, that has this level of understanding, that can give you what you want and give you what you need.
And I will tell you, it's not just a developer. A lot of the things so in my background, I used to work as a software developer, but they needed someone to fill in for project management. And then they needed someone to fill in for product management. And so a lot of these are actually product skills and project skills. So a lot of developers actually don't even have these skills. And that's why a lot of apps that are developed just feel cold. They feel like a developer brain, because they're great at code, and code is very ones and zeros, you know? So just finding a developer, isn't necessarily the goal. It's finding a developer who understands these principles or has a team that they're working with. They have a product person, a project person, a design person.
Absolutely. Never mind all of the different like integrations that we can do, and bringing in other softwares and bringing in AI and bringing in so many different features, and when to do that versus when to build your own. And the intention of this isn't to necessarily be overwhelming, but for those people that are watching this that say, yeah, I've had an idea for an app, or I know somebody that really wants to build an app, it's to know that with the technological advancements that we've had, we utilize AI. We utilize AI a lot in the process of everything we've talked about today. And there's a lot that still goes into that. So we can now deliver in 2 months, or in some instances 2 weeks. And for what it used to be pennies on the dollar, something that's just as good, if not better. And that's, I think, the most important message to get through here is, we're in a space right now where if you have that idea, if you've been that person, now is the time to start moving on that. And there's a really good way to go about it. So obviously, we would love for you to reach out to us at Coach Grid. This is one of the things that we've loved doing for coaches and for small business owners, is helping them develop their app and bring their dreams to life, to help other people and to help themselves. And so if you're interested in this, if you've resonated with what we've been talking about today, you can go to coachgrid.com and find us there, or follow us on Instagram at CoachGrid.